Ever since I remember, I used to be lost in strength training programming. My first book about strength training was Complete Calisthenics by Ashley Callum. And I don't want to be hateful, but that book was fucking horrible for beginners. Sure, there were like tens of different exercises, accurately described, accurately explained the technique, everything. But when it came to the programming side, the practical how to progress, things like that, it were literally just do 3 sets of 10 reps, bro. It was literally this. So aside from the proper technique of doing some exercises, which I already knew from YouTube, I didn't learn shit from it. So for the next couple of years I was just trying to program my own trainings while overcomplicating every single aspect, making horrible progress. Just I had no idea why I was doing 3 sets of 5 reps instead of, for example, 3 sets of 4 reps. Like, I did completely random shit. And as a result, as you might expect, or not expect, because so many people say that newbie gains are the best period in your life, you will build the most progress while you have newbie gains. For me, it was quite the opposite. With my newbie gains, when I didn't know shit about training, about programming, I've built a very average physique and also built a very average strength level. Even though I was working hard, even though I was quite consistent, the progress was shit, simply because I just didn't know what I was doing. Things changed when I finally read 2 books of Mark Repetto, The Starting Strength and Practical Programming. They are actually about powerlifting, because I thought that, damn, powerlifters, their only job is to progress with strength, with these 3 exercises, so they must know something about progressing and how to just have that nice linear progress. So I got interested in powerlifting, and that was the best decision in my training journey. The book Practical Programming is just so phenomenal. It completely changed how I view training, how I view programming, making adaptation, all that. Just, I was like, whoa. Just my mind opened to like all of the possibilities, you know? After that, I started reading more books. I've read Overcoming Gravity by Stephen Lowe. I've read that book about the periodization by Tudor Bompa and a few others book. And I can pretty proudly say that right now I understand the basic concepts of strength training. It took me literally years to understand them. So in this video I want to make things easy for you. I want to explain the anatomy of making progress, the anatomy of adaptation in this video, because I believe it's just really important to understand that. I believe that if you don't understand it, you will never know how strength training works, why plateaus happen, for example, how to beat plateaus. If you understand the physiology of adaptation, you will know all that. So without further ado, let's go straight into the video and let me try to explain it in the best way possible. I hope you will just get something out of that video. But before we begin, in case you are new here, my name is Karol. I have 6 years of experience in strength training and building muscle. I've tested countless different training programs, system methodologies, and I've built what I consider is a 10 out of 10 physique while enjoying every single workout. If you are a beginner or an intermediate and you are not satisfied with the progress you're making, shoot me a DM on Instagram, it's the first link in the description, so that we can make sure that you make the quickest and the most optimal gains at the gym. So let's start by explaining what even is strength training. Our body is usually in a state of homeostasis. This basically means that we don't have major stress in our life, we're basically chilling, and our body really likes that state. But if we were to stay in that state of homeostasis all the time, we would just not improve, we would stay in one place, and we would even regress. You know, that's the basic rule of life. If you don't improve, you go backwards. So in order to become stronger, in order to cause an adaptation in our body, we must disrupt the state of homeostasis. And we do that by providing enough stress to our body. So basically, the stress is obviously strength training, and if the stress caused by strength training is strong enough, then we will basically just disrupt the homeostasis. And it will take anywhere from 24 hours to even 96 hours for our body to go back to the homeostasis. But now our body is basically adapted to the stress we caused before. So we disrupt the state of homeostasis by doing strength training, and usually after a few days our body goes back to the state of homeostasis, it fully recovers, and guess what? We are slightly stronger and we are slightly more muscular than before that whole process. This process is basically called the stress adaptation cycle, and I will be referring to that name a couple of times in this video, so remember that. However, we all know that a single strength training session won't do shit to our physique or our strength level. Obviously, it will improve by a little bit, but the change will be so small that it will be hard to see. So in order to maximize the speed of progress and actually cause some major gains over a long term, we need to estimate as accurately as possible when our body returns back to the state of homeostasis after training, so then we can immediately attack it again with another stressor. But this time, the stress must be higher, because our body has already adapted to the stress we caused before. So if we were to repeat that same exact workout, it would do very, very little for our body. It wouldn't cause almost any adaptation at all. So this is the very big rule of strength training, and it is called progressive overload. And it basically means to just do more on every single training session. Every single training session must deliver more stress to our body than the last training session. And this basically causes our body to constantly adapt. Because if we were to do just the same exact workout every single time, our body would very quickly adapt to it, like in the matter of literally a few sessions. And it would be like chilling. It already adapted to that exact workout, so why do I need to improve more, you know? Our body would be thinking like that. So yeah, the key is literally just accurately estimating when our body goes back to homeostasis and attacking it again with a bit more stress than last time. And this will basically cause that we keep repeating that exact stress adaptation cycle. And thus, we linearly grow stronger and grow more muscular. But for example, some people will be really careful with the amount of rest they are having, and it can happen that you will, for example, have one more day of rest more than it is needed. So the question is, will you lose some adaptation? No. It will be completely neutral to the adaptation. You will just miss one day of potential opportunity that you could have started another stress adaptation cycle, you know? So as long as the break before you recover completely and another amount of stress is not longer than 7 days, you're basically good. You really shouldn't experience any loss in strength or in muscle. But again, we really just want to do another harder training session as soon as we go back to the homeostasis, as soon as we fully recover. On the other hand, we might not have enough patience to wait until our body fully recovers and reaches the state of homeostasis, which I feel like actually happens more often. And then, if you're not fully recovered and you hit your body with even more stress than you did last time, first of all, it is very likely that you will actually perform worse than on your last training session. It is actually a good clue, because if you are weaker than last time, it is in the 99% of cases you are just under-recovered. You didn't have the patience to let the stress adaptation cycle fully end. But what exactly happens in that case? Let me show you it on the graph I've made. I know it looks very beautiful. So yeah, as you can see, a pretty shitty situation just happened, because we didn't let our body finish the last stress adaptation cycle, and thus we fell even lower on the scale of performance. So, however, the good news is that if you just rest enough right now, if you give your body like a few solid days of recovery, it will go back and it will actually reach the adaptation it was supposed to reach earlier. And the bad news is that even though we reached adaptation, we just lost one training session, because if we were to just rest longer on that last training session, we would already get the adaptation that we are getting now. So we just kinda lost one training session, and you might wonder, won't the gains be bigger if we did 2 training sessions instead of just 1? And the answer is probably yeah, probably they will be slightly greater, but the difference is not that big that it would be worth doing it, if you know what I mean. Basically, just doing one workout and waiting for the full recovery will be always better, will always give you faster and more progress than doing, for example, 2 workouts, like in that previous example. The exception is when we train for a long time already and our body becomes resistant to the stress from just a single workout. But don't worry about it right now. I can pretty much guarantee that if you are not familiar with the things I'm talking about in this video, you are probably not at that level. Just let's face it. The pure reason why 90% of people stay and get stuck at the beginner stage is simply because they don't understand what I explained in this video. They don't understand how strength training works. So when they face a plateau, they are just stuck. They don't know how to progress further. So they usually take a break, they regress a bit, then they go back to the gym, they make some progress again, but they get to that same point when they were stuck. And it just keeps repeating and happening over and over again. And that is why there are so many people, in my local gym at least, that lived for 10 years longer than me, but they are using like literally the same weights or even lower weights than me. Very sad, but it just happens if you don't have that desire to learn, to educate, and to constantly improve. But going back to our charts, we already know how the stress adaptation cycle works and how the whole strength training programming operates. So now there are two very important questions that you might ask. The first one: how much training is actually enough to disrupt the homeostasis properly? And the second question: how do we know exactly when the body fully recovers and goes back to the homeostasis so we can hit it again with more stress? How do we know that? How do we know when exactly that happens? So these two questions are literally the key to making gains quickly and effectively. So I will do my best to explain the answer, but these questions are very interconnected, so I will just explain both of them at the same time. Basically, figuring these things out will take experimentation, and I know that's an extremely unsexy answer, but it's just true, you know. However, let me give you a few simple clues that you might follow, that you might find helpful. So when it comes to the amount of training you need to do to disrupt the homeostasis, it's usually less than you think. Right now in the gym I'm doing literally 3 sets of 5 reps of barbell squats, and I have like 2.5 to 1.5 reps in reserve after each and every set, and I don't do anything more for the legs, and that is literally enough to disrupt the homeostasis and cause nice adaptation. I keep adding weight every single week. So if you wonder how much to do of a certain exercise, just do what I did. It's honestly better to do less, and then on your next training session you might feel like you could have done that training session yesterday because you were already fully recovered. So then you can just do a little bit more. It is a lot better than just doing too much and not being recovered on your next training session, because then you're gonna wonder what to do now. Should I do less? Should I skip the workout completely and wait until I fully recover? So start with less than you think. This is my best advice. And if on your next training session, as I said, you feel like you could have done a little bit more because you did feel fully recovered yesterday, then you can try doing a little bit more. And the longer you train, the greater the ability you develop to just listen to your body. After some time, you develop just an ability to, at every single time, assess whether you are fully recovered or not. I know, sounds like a superpower, and it actually feels like one, but to make it easier, for example, during the day, to check, assess if you are fully recovered from the bench press training session, you could just do a few push-ups on the floor, and then you would see, are you stronger than last time? Do you feel kind of shitty still? Basically, before your next training session with a bench press, while doing push-ups, you should feel amazing. You should feel like these push-ups are very light, lighter than last time, you know? So if you, for example, did a heavy bench press training session and you want to repeat it today, but when you do a set of push-ups, they just feel kinda heavy, you just feel kinda sluggish, you know? In that case, it clearly means that you are under-recovered, so I would just recommend doing that training session tomorrow, or even 2 days later if tomorrow you feel that way again. So as you can see, it's a lot of just listening to your body, a lot of assessment of how you feel right now. But the good news is that if you already find the good amount of volume that disrupts the homeostasis properly and the adequate amount of rest you need to take to fully recover, then you can just stick to it and keep doing that for longer periods of time. And the only thing you need to focus on at that time is just looking for any potential sign of under recovery. So now you might be wondering if I should rest after every single workout. Does that mean that I need to take a rest day after every single workout? Multiple stress adaptation cycles can occur simultaneously. That means that if you do, for example, a push-pull split on 2 consecutive days, then on your pull day, on your second day, the stress adaptation cycle from the push workout will already be happening. But because you didn't really fatigue the pulling muscle groups, you will also be able to just start the stress adaptation cycle in your pulling muscle groups at the same exact time. And these 2 stress adaptation cycles, as I said, will just happen at the same exact time. So this is why there are so many different splits, because all of them just use this stress adaptation cycle, and you can just choose whichever you like the most. I personally really prefer the full body split 3 times per week. I will do a video about it, but it's your decision. If you really like, for example, push-pull legs, do push-pull legs. I'm not gonna stop you from doing what you like. And again, if you want my personal help with strength training programming to make the most amount of gains in the shortest amount of time, shoot me a DM on Instagram, is the first link in the description. And that's pretty much it for this video. I will definitely get deeper into that topic in the future, but please leave a comment saying which part of this video you were having trouble understanding, and I will know exactly which parts of this whole subject should I dive deeper in future videos. So that's all for today. Peace out.